24 hours, 2 Indomitus boxes. Do you think we can do this, Ollie?
With our track record, of course we can.
Let the challenge begin. Long before the return of lost Primarchs and the rebirth of the Space Marines, before the galaxy was torn in two and half the Imperium plunged into darkness, the world of Cronus became a battleground, as the mighty forces of the Bloodravens fought valiantly to thwart the re-emergence of a mighty Necron dynasty. It was in the mid-2000s, upon my 480p computer screen rather than the tabletop, that I got my first taste of the power of the Necrons, with my mates peeking over my shoulder to watch the opening cinematic to Dawn of War Dark Crusade. I first beheld the fierce green glow of those soulless eyes and watched on equally aghast and enthralled as the Necrons annihilated the Emperor's finest. Ever since, I've always wanted a host of spooky alien space robots to call my own, but never found a way to slot them into my roster. But with the release of 9th edition and the Indomitus box set, I knew that the time of the Necron had finally come. Over the last couple of months, I've released a few detailed painting tutorials developing my scheme for the Szarkhan Dynasty as I build towards a truly epic 40k narrative campaign. But like many of my projects, I've struggled to find a big block of time to sit down and smash out the bulk of my army. So I decided to once again set myself a big old 24-hour deadline and see if I could get a whole bunch of Necrons ready to march to war. My force is comprised of 2 Indomitus box sets worth of models sans a few units. I've only opted for 1 of each character, 30 warriors, 12 scarabs, 6 destroyers, and 4 murder buckets. As a handful of the characters and the reanimator were painted in my previous videos, that leaves me with 46 models to get painted in 24 hours. No small feat indeed. If I'll get all of these done, I'll have just shy of 1500 points ready to throw down against my Bloodravens. To keep me motivated, I've enlisted Olly from Broadsword Wargaming, throwing down the gauntlet for him to work on the Space Marine half of the Indomitus box set, and together we shall embark on this journey of madness and hopefully keep each other focused on the lofty goal. To give myself the best chance of hitting the target, I assembled all the models beforehand and gave them a good prime in Chaos Black. As the first few layers will be dry brushes, it's important that this prime has some good coverage. Up next was to refine and develop my plan of attack. I watched back over my last 2 videos and wrote down a series of step-by-step instructions so I had a crystal clear blueprint to follow. I cannot afford to lose any time umming and ahhing over scheme choices or accidentally painting the wrong color. Although spoilers, at one point that happened anyway. As we're doing this challenge in 2 12-hour blocks, I've broken my force up into 2 halves. I'm going to start with some exciting stuff to keep me awake through the early hours of the Australian morning by painting all the characters and the interesting units. Then in block number 2, it's just a huge batch paint on 30 Necron warriors. With the host assembled and primed, all that remains is to pick up the brush and begin the great Indomitus painting challenge. Alright guys, it is 10 PM. I've got it all ready. It was a bit of a mad rush. I've got my models, they're all primed, they're all on their sticks for mass batch painting techniques, and all my paints and my scheme is ready to go. Let's give Ollie a call and see if he's ready to rock and roll.
Hello Australia, how are you?
Hello Ireland, how are we?
We're good, we made it, we're here. What time is it over there for you? I think I've got the better half the deal here so far.
It's 10 PM here and I think you're at what, 12 in the afternoon or the mid-morning?
Midday.
So I'm staring down 12 hours into the depths of the morning through to tomorrow. And you've got a nice afternoon run.
Yeah, I get a lovely break as well. I didn't start too late. I get to finish nice and early. How are you feeling about this one?
I'm feeling good. Some of my viewers who might have seen my last attempt at one of these challenges may know that it was an abysmal failure, but this is where I excel. It's Necrons, it's all metallics, it's layered dry brushing, bit of edge highlighting. It's a much more speed painting friendly scheme. So I'm feeling good. What about you?
We can do this. I'm looking at exactly 20 models actually. I'm not a speed painter, but this will be easy. I think we've got this. This is International Indomitus Box Set Day, right? That's basically what we're doing. So I'm looking forward to this. I think you might need me here on this one at 5 AM when you're getting knackered. That's where the boost comes in, right? 'Cause that's where I struggle.
Yep, that is key. That is key. All right, well, good luck, dude. Let's jump in. Let's get base coating. Let's start getting through those horrible workhorse layers. And we'll start smashing these guys out and touch base in a few layers' time.
All right, man. Catch you later. Have fun.
To kick us off, it's time to start building up that lovely brassy armor profile, and we're going to use one of the new metallics from the Citadel range, Runelord Brass. I'll be heavily overbrushing with my largest makeup brush to apply some strong coverage to the raised and mid-level elements of the model, but leave the dark black of the prime in the deeper recesses. This style of base coat is extremely quick to apply, and combined with the optimized paint handle setup of this first batch, it's a great start to the challenge. Once I've achieved a good coverage on most of the model, I then switch to my smaller brush to get into those harder to reach areas. With the brass foundation down, I'm bringing in my first highlight using Canoptic Alloy. This is a much more chromy tone, but it does have a small amount of red pigment, which means it complements the Runelord beautifully. This is applied in the same style using my smaller brush, but with much more restraint, aiming to hit the very tops of details only and leaving much of the Runelord showing through the midtones. So it's 11:30, I'm an hour and a half in, and I've already finished 2 base coats. This is a hugely different feeling to the last 24-hour challenge, but these were cheat layers, of course, all being applied with the lovely big dry brushes, but it's buoyed me full of confidence, and I'm ready to sink into the next couple of layers. Our next base coat is a classic Citadel metallic, the Mighty Leadbelcher. I'm applying this as a standard even coat over all of the skeletal parts of the Necrons that lie beneath the armor plates. By having these as a dark silver, we'll eventually wash it back to create some lovely striking contrast in the scheme that really helps all the metallic details read. The last metallic base coat to go down is some simple Retributor armor just on the skirt and collar details of the Royal Warden to help him stand out above the rank and file.
Hello, this is Eurovision. This is Ireland calling Australia.
Australia's doing quite well. We're coming, I've got a good chance of coming first in the Eurovision painting contest. I'm smashing this, dude. We are 3 hours in, and I'm feeling a lot better. Tell me about yours. How you doing?
I basically have spent 3 hours doing things that look like I've done nothing. So I've got like black models that just look a bit grey.
Yeah, you've got all these like subtle layers and stuff, I think, they like don't look great until it all comes together and looks awesome. Whereas I'm loving this scheme because it's like so obvious stuff is happening.
All my guys have an orange arm for my own scheme. I've got those separate, so I'll probably do those in the next 12-hour stint. So I've got some whites to add on now, and then golds and various like orange faceplates and knee pads. So there's a lot of detail to do, but not a lot of models.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I think half of my models are cheating because they're scarabs, and let's face it, they're barely models at all. So I feel like my model count is impressive, but it's probably the easier run. I think let's jump back into it, dude. Good luck. Let the washes begin. With this layer we enter the second phase of the paint job, and I'm going to use some clever combinations to get a really lovely tone on my metallic layers. Up first is Cryptek Armor Shade going down on all of the brass armor. Every panel on the arms, the legs and the torso is getting a wash with this shade, but be careful to avoid getting any of the underskeleton, which has been painted silver. The other big omission is the shoulder pads and the head of the Necron. Even though these are currently toned with the 2 brass overbrushes, we'll actually be washing these with Basilicanum Grey. This will create a subtle difference in tone for these parts of the model, which really helps them pop. Basilicanum Grey then goes down on all of the silver components to give them a nice depth of tone and accentuate the recessed details, and with these first 2 shades down you can really see the contrast between the brass and silver starting to read, and that will only improve once we start to edge highlight. Up next, I'm throwing down a heavy blue wash over the skirt details on the Plasmancer to give him a bit of a spooky, ethereal feel, and then hitting the gold detailing on the Royal Warden with some Agrax Earthshade to make that goldy luster really sing. The final shade to go down is some Black Templar from Citadel Contrast, which is applied exclusively to the spine of the Necron warriors, destroyers, crypto thralls, and characters.
Well, hello, how's it going? It's like halfway through now. I'm expecting you to be halfway done.
I've slowed up a bit. The first 3 hours it was all power, and then somehow it took me another 3 hours just to do the washes.
You've also hit like premium nighttime mode as well, haven't you now?
It's like 4 a.m. now, and I'm proper starting to feel the time now. How about you? How are you checking in?
Middle of the afternoon, I've got a beer in hand. Well, just there now, just finished a beer. The greys and blacks are done. I've glazed them as well. I'm going to do transfers. I think I'll wait until the 12 hours and then let them dry because I need to glaze again. So I need to get on with these because Currently, I've just base coated a load of models.
So technically, I'm in front at the moment if I'm into edge highlighting.
Is that how it works? Yeah, I think so. I'm going to base now. If I do my basing, that means I've finished. Well, keep it up, man. Keep up over there. I know this is the hardest time.
Yep, it's the grind, but I'm feeling good. I just smashed in food. I had ice cream. I ate all my wife's ice cream. It's going to be awesome in the morning, but I've got some like short burn energy to get through the rest of these highlights or get started at least. So yeah, let's do it, dude.
If you want to sit next time I phone you up, that's fair enough.
Well, we are now into the early hours of the morning and I have the hardest part of the scheme ahead of me. A lot, and I mean a lot, of edge highlighting. The shades actually took me longer than I thought, which always seems to happen somehow, and now I'm feeling a little nervous about getting this first block of minis done. The first panels to be highlighted is the brass armor. With the Cryptek armor shade down, these areas now have a lovely rich brassy tone, and we just need to accentuate all of the details to make them really pop, and because of how deep this shade is, we can actually just use our two base coat colors. I'm applying the Runelord brass first, which is the really big layer. Essentially what I'm doing is edge highlighting everywhere to crisp up the details and not paying any attention to light sources, and then I'm going to bring in Canoptic alloy and apply a thinner highlight, but only to the edges that are at the top of the model, the tops of the leg plates, the arms, the upper edge of those rib gaps. This is just a simple little technique that helps create a little bit of realism by hinting at a light source from above without going too crazy. Now the brass is looking fantastic, it's time to bring the silver up to the same level. As Basilicanum Grey is once again nice and dark, I'm able to return to my base tone, in this case Lead Belcher, to put down my first highlight. There's a lot of lovely raised details to accent on the skeleton, and of course some nice hard edges on the shoulder pads and the face of our Necrons. So it is 20 to 7, I've got just over 3 hours left and I'm getting absolutely crushed. The sun has just come up outside and I think it's messing with my body clock. Fatigue is real. I've gotten all the edge highlighting on the brass done and the first pass on the silver. It's almost done now, just a few little touch-ups with Stormhost Silver, and then the edge highlighting is finished. I'm so happy with the work I'm getting done. It's like bulk work. I'm working at a nice fast rate, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to stay awake for the next 3 hours. If I can keep it together, I've got a really good chance of getting these models completely finished and based, but I'm a little bit worried about 7 power weapons needing like luminance blends before I put down the Tesseract Glow to make that beautiful glowy green. So I'm going to finish these edge highlights and then start getting that grey, white, black blend down. The last edge highlight is Stormhost Silver, and I'm going to apply this in the exact same way as Canoptic alloy on the brass to hint at a light source. This highlight goes down on all of the silver areas, but also a very subtle highlight on the blue and gold plates as well, just to bring them up a little. My eyes are stinging and my hands are aching, but the metallics are looking so good. Really happy with how they've come along, and I'm making amazing time. So good, in fact, that I've actually decided to add on a few little simple weathering effects to these special units. So up first, I'm applying a dab of Typhus Corrosion in various little patches around the models, and then before that dries, I'm bringing in a clean, dry brush and teasing out the edges to make sure that it blends a little bit more. This paint has a natural grit and texture in it that looks amazing, but when it dries it can sometimes create some harsh lines, so we're trying to blend that out because that's not the look we're going for here. Then once that's dry, we're going to accent all the gritty texture with a few dry brushes with Brazen Brass and then Lead Belcher to make it look like rust. Now these are applied with a bit of a stipple dry brush, and when that's down it creates a really cool effect. With this weathering you can go as hard as you like, but for these dudes I've decided that less is more, just focusing on a few key areas where it really reads, like the large shoulder pads and the thigh plates. 2 hours left, dude. How are you going over there in Ireland?
Well behind, really, schedule on the models. I've done like all the blacks, all the browns, and then 10 silver models, that's it. How about you? You're looking worse for wear.
I am absolutely cooked. I'm very tired. I was really hoping that I might be able to like get this done so fast I could steal like 2 hours of sleep and move them to the next block because I am wasted. But I'm doing good work though. I've done all my bases, all my highlights, and all my weathering.
That's mad. I'm looking at 20 models, and I'm thinking I won't get them done by the next 12 hours.
Yep. It's like just gone 8 a.m. So it's the sun is shining, the birds are tweeting. My body is like, what is happening? Why am I out of energy? But yeah, no, they're looking good.
You've aged 10 years in 10 hours. Look at that, actual models. I still got, this is completely untouched since I did the black. So that's great, isn't it? Well, push through, man. 2 hours to go. You can get them done. You can get pounding on those. If I can get a couple more layers done on mine, I'll be happy by tonight.
2 hours, we can do this. So I'm officially a zombie at this point. Tiredness is really kicking in. Luckily, the next layer is simple. The one after that, not so much. For now, I'm applying a coat of Stonewall Grey and then White Scar to all of the glowing orbs littered around the models. This will build up a nice luminance profile to turn bright green when I hit them with the Tesseract Glow. Then to try and do a simple simulation of the green glow emanating from these little orbs, I'm going to dry brush the model around the orbs with a lighter tone to catch the glaze and look like a reflection. I tried doing this with Praxetti White at first, but it had damn dried up on me, so I went for my more subtle grey tone so that the reflections aren't as bright as the light source. Once that was all down, it was time to start applying some awesome technical paint from Games Workshop Tesseract Glow. This is the simple process of just dumping some glow on the orbs and then moving it around in thinner passes across the nearby parts of the model to give them a gentle green sheen. When this green starts to go down, it really creates a pop that these models have been sorely needing, and the scheme really starts to work. Well, I just recorded one outro and I wasn't recording, so that was fun. I can't do it. I'm so tired. I can't do the 12 hours. So it's 9 a.m. I've been going for 11 hours and I am falling asleep at the desk. So I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna bank 1 hour and do 13 hours in the next block, where I'll hopefully be more awake and more productive. But I've done good work tonight. The Spider-Man dudes, the Scarabs, they're finished. They've got all their glow effects, they just need to be based. They're looking really sweet. These little dudes, the Plasmancers, are on the way. They've got a bit of glow work still to do. And then the heroes and the murder buckets and the Scorpec choppies, they're basically, they all just need their glow effects and the power swords, and I just cannot put down any more paint on any more models. But I'm super happy with how I've gone. I'm gonna go get some sleep, and then this time tomorrow I think we're starting again because we're swapping and I get the day shift next. So I'm gonna be full of energy and I'm gonna smash these guys and as many Necron warriors as I can. I don't think it's gonna be 37, but at least 20 is my aim. So let's go get some sleep and we'll get ready for the rest of this. Alright guys, it is the beginning of block number 2. It is now 7:30 a.m. in the morning. I've got the morning shift. We have swapped for the second half, and I did a little sneaky hour after the last block because I was owed one, and I have got all of that first block finished. All of the power swords are done, all of the green glowy wonderfulness. They haven't got any basing, so we'll have to try and fit that into these 12 hours, and today it is up to 30 Necron warriors. Let's give Olly a call and see how he's going.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you feeling at the beginning of your night shift for block number 2?
I'm feeling worse than I was about starting the day shift. You yourself look a little bit brighter today. The last time I saw you, you were kind of a bit more of a zombie. You were a bit dead and dying. Your hair was more frazzled. I think you had a mad look in your eyes.
I'm a bit perked up now. I feel, you know, the opportunity is right for the taking to smash some Necrons today. I'm awake, which is a better start than last time.
The main job for today is orange arms, right? At the moment, I've got a load of one-armed men, so orange arms. I have no idea what scheme I'm going for. I've tried a few. I think I like one, so I'm going to go for that today. Can I do it? We'll see. I'm going to need you, I think, in like 10 hours' time when I'm dying at 7 a.m., so...
All right, my man. Well, let's get those paintbrushes cracking out and dive into block number 2.
Let's do it.
We are going full batch mode for the next 12 hours with 30 Necron warriors, all with an identical scheme. This is going to be a different experience to the first 12, and at first I was a little worried by the prospect of so many models, but now I see them all assembled on their batch painting sticks. I'm quietly confident. In terms of the model's surface area, there's definitely less to paint, and the scheme is much more simple. That's right, no hyperphase blade blends. With a strong start, I reckon I can get these guys done and get get the whole army based and varnished. Just like the last batch, we're starting off with our double dry brush layer of Runelord Brass and then Canoptic Alloy. Although the eagle-eyed among you may have noticed that the first paint pot I picked up wasn't Runelord Brass. Yeah, about that. So in spite of all of my confidence in this bright and early morning start, I've just made a bit of a serious f*** up. I just did a big heavy overbrush with my highlight color instead of my base color, so Canoptic Alloy instead of Runelord Brass. So now I've got way too much silver alloy going on. I thought it was a bit silvery, but I was just chatting with Olly and we were not really paying attention. So what I'm going to do to try and fix that is I'm going to come back in with Runelord Brass and a smaller dry brush, and I'm going to under dry brush, and so hit the underneath of all of the model to create sort of two toning, so that at least on the recessed side of the models, the shaded sides, there is the deeper color. And then of course this is all going to get washed and then edge highlighted. So I think once that process happens, it's actually going to be pretty indistinguishable, but I could not believe that I had done that. And we're off the rails at step 1. Great work, Lockie! Salvage mode activated. So I've just thrown the Runelord Brass into those undertones, and that's looking really good. I've got some of those brassy elements back into the scheme, but I noticed on that first batch of units that I did in the 12 hours, and some of the early Necron models I'd painted, that there probably wasn't enough contrast between the brass armor plating and the skeletal elements that are that silver look. And so I had been thinking that when I got to those components that I would deepen those a little bit by perhaps washing with some Black Templar rather than Basilicanum Grey, which is what I have been using. But instead I'm thinking of a different approach. Because I went for this over heavy silver dry brush with Canoptic Alloy, all of those elements are now really silvery already. So instead of base coating them again with lead belcher like we did in the first block of units, I'm actually just going to leave them because they've got that lovely silver toning from the new dry brush that we did by accident, and of course all of the black is in the recesses, making those quite dark. So we're going to move straight onto washes after 2 dry brushes. We have accidentally cut out an entire base coating step, and on 30 warriors going in with lead belcher and base coating all of the joints and the arms and the legs, that's going to be like a couple of hours that I've just saved. So what does Bob Ross say? There are no mistakes, just happy accidents. Well, that was an unexpected victory, and well before I was intending, we're into Shadeland. Just like before, the Cryptek armor shade is going down all over the brass, but this time around, this layer was a bit more of a slog. So many little plates on 30 separate models is taking its toll. With the new, albeit accidentally new, approach for my silver components, I did a couple of tests and decided that keeping the Basilicanum Grey was still the way to go. The deeper black of the recesses from the prime was enough to get me that extra depth of contrast. I didn't need to bring in Black Templar, which works perfectly as it keeps the spines looking different from the silver. Riding the wave of momentum created by embracing my mistakes, I have crashed through the shades, and now it's onto edge highlighting. This process is almost the same as the other units in the army, but I decided to have a bit of a play with some of the highlights to once again help improve that contrast between the different metallic layers. Up first is the Runelord Brass and Canoptic Alloy combination. As I had hoped, as these highlights went down over the Cryptek armor shade, the final look was very similar to my Scorpek destroyers, which begs the question, perhaps my mistake has actually yielded a more efficient way to paint the scheme? For my silver components, I did a nice detailed pass in lead belcher and then came in with even more restraint than before with Stormhost Silver, just using it for the very brightest of highlight points, literally a couple of dots on each model to help keep that silver nice and dark.
So do you remember yesterday when I said I was going to be done with the airbrush? Still got it, still in my hand, still here, still doing oranges. I do now have, though, a nice orange that I'm pretty happy with, but yeah. There's some work to go on the Space Marine side, I think.
Necronland is good. I have absolutely smashed it this morning. 5 hours left. I want all of these models and all of the models I did in the first 12 hours based and varnished. That's my goal now.
Based.
I'm aiming
as
big.
well.
I'm aiming big. I've
Wow.
got my base ready compound, so I can whack that stuff down pretty quickly. But that is my bold goal.
It's big talk, man. That is big talk. Let's get on with it then. I might need you in a few hours now. I'm starting to flag, so I'll be calling you for help.
Well, with less than half of today's time left, I've made some phenomenal progress, but I've come to a crossroad. I could continue as planned, stepping through the weathering before moving to the weapon detail and glow effects, or take a shortcut and leave the typhus corrosion just to the special units to give them a little point of difference. The main factor weighing on my mind here is how desperately I want to see 46 based and varnished models on the table in front of me at the end of this challenge. So, with that in mind, I leapt straight into finishing the gun detail. First up, I gave the entire guns a nice dry brush with Stonewall Grey. I had deliberately avoided these when doing the initial dry brush and thrown down a bit of Black Templar on any overspill, so these guns are now a nice matte black and grey, which helps set them apart from the predominantly metallic models. Then I grabbed some lead belcher to pick out the steel coil cabling and the heatsink set into the receiver. The final detail is to pick out the power cables with Caliban Green. This beautiful dark green helps keep these details muted, but it's still different enough so that it reads and it keeps them on palette. So with that final weapon detail done, these guys are coming along really nicely. All that is left is the wonderful greeny glow of the Tesseract, which is coming out of all of the beautiful little orbs in their weaponry. Well, it's that time again. Break out your luminance profiles, boys and girls. It's time to create a series of grey and white highlights to set up that greeny Necron glow. I went for a very minimalistic approach with my highlights here, literally just picking out the separate orbs. I do quite like the aesthetic this creates, really leaning into the dark, moody tone of this scheme, but it was also a choice based on time. If I had chosen to paint grey and white into all the recessed details of the Gauss weaponry to make a more glowing barrel, it would have taken quite a while. I also hit the eyes because I just love the eyes being all spooky green, and then everything got a nice glaze with Tesseract glow to complete the spookiness. So there is 2 hours left, Ollie, and I am annihilating over here in Australia. My Necrons are finished except for basing. I'm going to varnish them, wait for that to dry, go to the shops, get some chocolate, and then have a cup of tea, and then put some base ready down, and these guys are going to be done.
You show-off bastard. I'd love to say I'm ready to base my models and finish. When I say base, I mean base coat. I'm still there.
If you could give us a percentage of completion.
60% complete, maybe? Or something?
Is that 60 or 16?
Well, it could be 16. No, 60% complete, right? I've got 2 hours. It's not going to happen. It's not going to finish, but I could probably get them, like, ready enough to play with.
Hell yeah. Alright dude, 2 hours left. Let's punch it. Ooh yeah, a coat of varnish and I've got 46 models who just need to be based, and you Zorptrons know I love me some basing. As always, we'll be grabbing the Wargaming Scenic's base ready line, which is all available on my online store, zorbazorp.com. After a quick coat on all the base rims with some Tuskor fur, it's time to put down a layer of fast drying basing glue. Once you've done that on every base, you want to make sure they've left for about 10 minutes till the edges go glossy, which is perfect when you're doing big batch runs like this. Then it's time to grab your favorite base ready mixture and dip those models like a nacho into guac. I'm using 2 different base readies today, my absolute 40k workhorses, GRIMDARK City Rubble and GRIMDARK Tombworld. I've gone for City Rubble on all the really aggressive units out there fighting the fight. The warriors, the destroyers, the scarabs, and then all the units who are more of a support class, they're hanging back at the Tombworld. To make sure those 2 base styles look cohesive in the army, I've sprinkled a little bit of City Rubble over the top of the Tombworld bases, and then that ties them all together. Once they've been dipped, leave them for about half an hour and then tap off any excess rubble and then give them a seal. You can use either normal model varnish or the Wargaming Matte Scenic Sealant Spray. The sealant spray is a lot stronger than a normal varnish, but it is a liquid spray coming out of that atomizer, so it will move around some of the pigments on the GRIMDARK City Rubble, and that changes the tone slightly, giving you a bit more contrast. But whichever look you go for, it looks absolutely amazing. Well, Ollie, 24 hours, my dude. That was a marathon.
I've been up for 24 hours straight now, as well as having done this the day before. We flipped round on this, right? So I'm actually feeling surprisingly fresh. I think it's easier knowing the end is near.
Yeah, that was, I did really well. I was smart with my scheme. I finally picked something achievable for a 24-hour challenge, and I got 30 warriors, 6 Skorpek destroyers, 3 heroes and their little crew. Yeah, taking me to 46 Necrons, painted and based.
I have to say that is a severe Zorp victory. Broadsword yet again. I lost to myself last time and I lost to you this time. Yeah, no, good work. I think you've planned your scheme out well there, and I think you've picked a cheat army to get you over the line.
Definitely, 100% a cheat army. But after my crushing defeat last time, I had to pick up my game, so I've turned it around.
Would you do it again?
Definitely. Maybe this with some Marines.
If I did it, I'd cheat. I'd do my Necrons and I'll just spray them level vulture, wash them, done in 10 hours, right?
Somehow, even if you did that, I still think you'll find a way to make it take 25 hours.
I have my airbrush in hand after 22 hours. That's not great, is it? That was never a good sign. So.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't a good beginner. So there we have it. 24 hours of painting. What a journey and what a result. 46 spooky brass cons, 1,500 points of Gauss and Hyperphase carnage ready to annihilate my Blood Ravens in the upcoming campaign. Be sure to head over to Broadsword Wargaming and check out Olly's epic journey, and comment down below if you'd like to see a rematch, an epic part 2 that could see some very interesting armies go under the brush. If you're new around here, be sure to subscribe and chuck us a big old thumbs up, and we'll see you next time right here on Zorpazorp Gaming. On my own, pretending he's beside me. Alright, I've got that. That's fucking hilarious.